Hey folks, welcome to my channel, or welcome back if you've been here before. So we're doing some reflections on Saturn in Aquarius podcast style today, so I'm off camera. Now as usual, let's get right in because we have a lot to try to make sense of. This is a very serious time on the planet as we try to wrap our minds around what is happening with coronavirus and COVID-19, not just the health impact or even the economic impact, but the psychic impact. So what is the psychic impact of this virus? So lots of people, of course, are in states of fear and grief as they have lost loved ones and as they feel uncertain about what is going on in the world, a sense of helplessness and a sense of being under siege. I just spoke to my aunt who is a nurse practitioner working in a hospital in New York City, and she described a very grave situation in terms of seeing quite a number of deaths and, of course, the psychic toll that this is having on her and her own state of mind as a health practitioner. So all of that. Now, what we normally discuss on the channel, especially in our astrology of the month and full moon videos, and when we look at collective transits, we try to make it inclusive and uplifting, to look at all sides of the planetary and sign energies, to look at the whole spectrum, including not just the challenges, but the very opportunities inherent in the planetary configurations themselves. So using the planets as a spiritual guide. So on this channel, I'm very interested in meditating and reflecting on the astrology as a way of uplifting people and helping them to feel a sense of being able to consciously work with the planetary energies from a place of personal empowerment and a greater sense of personal capability to manage their lives. So we are fundamentally interested in astrology as a sort of a spiritual praxis, an ongoing active meditation on the planets to help us to meet our lives with a sense of savvy and to have a sense of the big picture. So as such, I tend to stay away from delving into topics which tend to, let's say, incite more division. So my goal is always to focus on the lessons and insights from the astrology that we can apply directly to our lives, no matter what we believe. But there comes a time, I think, when more people have to be publicly willing to call a spade and to be frank about what is happening on the planet in the face of such acute, all-encompassing global shutdown and contraction. It becomes too glaring to not begin to talk more frankly about what is happening on the planet. So we're going to try to have more of a frank discussion through the lens of astrology. So Saturn would have just gone into Aquarius toward the end of March after the gateway of the spring equinox. And we spoke about this in the video dedicated to unpacking the astrology of the second half of March, and also in our podcast called The Astrological Cycles of 2020. So Saturn in Aquarius, things of serious import that affect humanity on the widest scale, regardless of race, gender, class, socioeconomic status, and whatever else we tend to wrap our personal identity around. So Saturn in Aquarius on one level represents our individual responsibility toward the collective. So Aquarius raises the question of humanity as a collective entity, and Saturn raises the question of responsibility. So we often find, and if we look at it historically, we find that those with natal Saturn in Aquarius tend to have a heightened sense of collective or social responsibility. So to put this in broader terms and to look at it from a bigger picture, We have an individual soul assignment. We each have an individual soul assignment, and we also have a collective assignment. They are two sides of one coin. So humanity is a collective consciousness body. And as each of us, as we each go through our individual lives, we participate in the consciousness body of the species. So there is, of course, the deeper soul reality too, that the soul has, let's say, multiple expressions. So each of us, even as we look into the mirror and we see one person, we are connected to a multiplicity of identities across the lines of time. So our individual lives make sense in the context of our soul, which expresses itself in a multifaceted way. And we call other expressions of our soul so-called past lives. We say past because we impose a sort of linearity onto our human experience. The rules of the game of consciousness here have a sort of linearity. Day follows night, vice versa. So as we penetrate into the recesses of our inner psyches, we will find our connection to other expressions of our soul along the lines of time, which reinforce that our identities are not at all as singular as we thought them to be. So that's what happens when we do things like past life regression. So yes, each of us comes in with an individual and a collective assignment. So the individual assignment, the unique lessons that we have come to learn, the things that we have come to heal that are quite specific to us. But as we learn these lessons and heal emotional energies, we help to resolve energies within the collective and within the planetary body itself. So astrology helps us to understand the nature of the archetypal energies that we are healing. So signs and planets belong to, let's say, an energetic architecture, let's say of codes and of patterns. And as we each heal relative to our individual psychic blueprint, symbolically described by our natal charts, we contribute to the rehabilitation of the energetic architecture symbolized by the planets and signs. So we bring these codes and patterns into more alignment. So to put it broadly, as we work through our Capricorn issues, for example, or our Scorpio issues or our Aquarius issues, as we integrate and heal, we are contributing to the restoration of a broader intelligence field, an energy architecture. As we've said elsewhere on the channel here, signs are the deeper building blocks from which psychological reality is made. They are an energetic blueprint and architecture. And if we could see them physically with our eyes, we could imagine seeing an intricate geometry of interconnecting spatial patterns, interconnecting geometric patterns. And as we know, geometric patterns called aspects are central to astrological understanding. So geometric patterns transmit certain frequencies. So the sign field of Aquarius, for example, has a specific geometric pattern, a specific frequential pattern. And as we integrate and express the higher attributes of a particular sign energy, we repair the energy grid, so to speak. The energetic grid of a sign field becomes warped through emotional energy distortion and distorted mental or thought patterns. So the point is that as we heal psychologically, as we each do this individually, we help to restore the broader collective sign energy architecture. So humanity is a group soul, and each of you has a planetary collective assignment which is fulfilled throughout your individual life. So whether you understand it or not, your individual life makes sense and matters within a much larger context of consciousness than you can probably imagine. So as we are in this COVID-19 situation, as we consider something that has such a planetary collective impact. For those of you who are so minded, you will think about some of your greater collective responsibility. So collective Aquarius responsibility, Saturn. So the responsibility to be more human, not less human. The responsibility to be more human, not less. So being more human and not less human in a world where what we have happening is increasing suppression of and deliberate undermining of what I would call personally the fulfillment of the natural, let's say organic, bio-spiritual template of the species. So undermining of the organic, bio-spiritual template through what is in the food, what's in the water, wireless technologies which disturb the auric field of the human and which create cognitive fog and perceptual distortion. Certain kinds of AI, pharmaceutical drugs which undermine the organic healing properties and sequences in the body, confusion of identity, and we could go on and on and on. So we are living in a world which I think is increasingly plain to see is in many ways anti-human. And it sounds extreme, but when we reduce it to what it is, anti-human would be a good description. So we are living through a virus which we are being asked to believe is a natural organic virus cropping up suddenly in China. And this virus, because it's so extreme and because it mutates so strangely, is requiring social isolation and distancing, things which are antithetical to human beings' natural propensity to associate with each other. So we are virtually under a kind of global house arrest in this lockdown in trying to deal with a virus which we are being asked to believe is a natural, random sort of occurrence. And it's very interesting, again, to go back to my aunt, who is so traumatized by what she is seeing on the front lines that she sent me a message just now and said, it feels like biochemical warfare. Such is the extreme nature of the situation where she is at her hospital that it feels like biochemical warfare. So in her words, not mine, just how it feels to her. She's not making any conclusions, but she's just saying how it feels. So as we look at the world around us, it really begs the question, why is it so important that when we look at all things considered, why is it so important that the humanity of human beings be shut down in various ways that we've listed? Why is it so important that the biological and spiritual integrity of the human being be undermined in ways that are becoming increasingly less subtle? So the next 2 or so years when Saturn is in Aquarius, these 2 years will place squarely on the table or responsibility to do the things to reclaim our humanity, to consciously assume or responsibility to reclaim the dignity of being human, the dignity of an organic, collective, biospiritual template and fulfillment of that. So in many ways, it's becoming more clear that we are being steered away from our humanity, which, folks, is our best asset. So whereas it was once much more covert, it's becoming far more clear and obvious that some of the forces that shape events on our world are connected to, let's say, types of consciousness which do not really carry an organic, biospiritual human template and do not have the sort of human emotionality and, let's say, moral sense that most people may have. So these types of consciousness are fundamentally interested in shutting down, as we said, what would be the biological and spiritual integrity of the human being. So this is why it is of central importance that we embrace being more human, not less. And what might being more human look like in this time? It's a boring answer. Very boring answer. It's participating and immersing ourselves in the biological dignity of our humanity. So, to the best of your ability, forgiving yourself and others, saying, I am sorry for the hurt that you may have caused, extending kindness and compassion to other people, healing what you need to heal, resolving negative attitudes and beliefs and compacted, dense emotional energy and debris, having a sense of humor and wit, even in what would appear to be the darkest of times. Celebrating and acknowledging what you do have. I had a good meal today. And making a good meal if you can. Checking up on the people you care about. Listening to good music. Making music. Celebrating and taking in the creativity of people. Contributing your own creativity to the collective pool in worthwhile and meaningful ways. Simplifying your life, simplifying and being present with the body. Also, taking time to let the mind play, to imagine. Taking time off of your devices, clearing out emotional and mental fog through interacting with nature. Playing with your pets, watering your plants, calling a friend to find out how they're doing. Lending your expertise or skill set or knowledge to someone who needs it. Beautifying your space, making your house or your apartment pleasing and uplifting. Having some kind of creative outlet. Sharpening up your intelligence and awareness. Human beings are not made to be stupid or foolish. Baking a cake. Learning some kind of new skill. Going for a swim, gardening, watching the birds. So these things, they sound so simple and trite and mundane, but they are oh so powerful. So our responsibility to do the things that strengthen our humanity, Saturn in Aquarius in basic terms, and which encourage the highest attributes of the species. This is now a question of personal responsibility. So there are simple things to do. But these are the things that are going to become more and more and more important in a world where things are engineered to bring about a disconnect from our humanity and bring about a very unsavory world, a very, very unsavory world. So we are seeing that things are engineered to sow so much confusion, which takes us away from our biological integrity and ability to ground into our humanity. So instead, we are dissociated from the body. Many of us are caught in the loop of the news cycle. And we're not saying that we don't want to be informed about what is being reported in the world, but we want to be mindful of how much we consume too much of a steady diet of looped news. Bring some balance. Help your body to not be in states of fear. Plug out. So your responsibility to the collective now involves being more discerning and deliberate about where you place your energetic attention. The less confused people we have on the planet, the better. The more psychologically steady and grounded, the better. So our responsibility involves extricating ourselves from forces that would want to hijack our humanity through all sorts of means, most especially through creating perceptual distortions and weakening our connection to our biological bodies in all sorts of nefarious ways. So our responsibility to the planet involves cultivating a mental alertness to what is actually unfolding on our world. So these are a few things to think about as we navigate through our individual and collective lives. As always, wishing you calmness, clarity, steadfastness, and the wherewithal to find an uplifting perspective in the midst of what looks very dire. So until next time, folks, talk soon. Bye.